and here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Throttling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bags, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, it sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome to another NSF live stream of a launch, but this one is quite an interesting one here out at Florida on the Space Coast. And so, you know, it's going to be a weird stream because one of the things about this mission is that we have not a lot of information about what is going on. But in any case, folks, we are here, of course, as usual, live streaming this launch, Falcon 9, out there at Space Launch Complex 40, getting ready for liftoff, hopefully in just a little over 57 minutes from now. You probably know already my voice. I'm Alex. I'm here hosting for today's live stream, but I'm not going to be alone because we have Jerry Pike out there on the field, and he's gonna take it's basically the guy that's providing this view, right? Because if we didn't have our field team, then we wouldn't have any of these views. Jerry, how's it going? How's the weather out there and things like that? I see the sun is about to come up. I already see some I don't know, some light coming up there on the sky.
Yeah, the sun is coming up here at the Space Coast. It's about 30 minutes before sunrise, so the sun will be up before T0, but it's a great day out here. No wind, kind of the typical morning routine that we've been kind of used to these past couple weeks with all these Starlinks and other payloads. And this one definitely not a Starlink, but still going at that very early morning when there's really no weather concerns here at the Cape, because the past weekend, I can say for sure, if you were wanting to launch in the afternoon, it was not happening because there was some pretty big, nasty storms here, but nothing to speak of in that regard here. So looking great for launch here today in just a little under an hour.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like it's not Starlink, but it's a star something. But yeah, and we'll talk about it all day here because all day, all the live stream here because it's quite an interesting mission, and I'm sure you all have lots of questions. So tag at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF in chat, and you'll be able to drop off your questions into our panel, and then we'll be able to sort of, you know, go through all of those and be able to answer here live as we count down to this launch. Now, I should also thank as well our producer for today's live stream, Jay Keegan, because he's pushing all the buttons, pulling all the levers, and everything to make this work, and all the photons and electrons and everything go through everything that it needs to go through in order to reach your screens. In any case, Jerry, I was talking about the weather earlier because one of the things that I saw for this mission is that it's quite good. Like it's a really rare thing in the summer, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, like for the summer, definitely, you know, the weather is, I mean, it's not even summer yet. It feels like summer here in Florida with some of the, you know, afternoon weather patterns we've been having here the past week or so. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a reason that they're on this very early morning schedule for the past couple weeks here. As much as some of us are not super pleased with having to get up at these times, it is what it is. But there's a reason. The weather is the reason, right? There's nothing in terms of weather to speak of yet, at least, right? It's just getting out of the morning hours of on the East Coast here in Florida, so nothing is developed in terms of weather. It won't for, you know, another, you know, 8 hours, 12 hours or so until we get to the afternoon. But yeah, the weather is great here, but eventually. Oh, yes. Yeah, there we go. Cool. That camera's up now. Yeah, I mean, it's a Nice view. Nothing's nothing really clear skies today. So a lot of
Yeah,
bugs
that
though.
looks gorgeous. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
After
little to no wind, but that brings in the mosquitoes when it's very stagnant air because they love to swarm around. So that's a negative there, though.
yeah, there's the calm before the storm, and then there's the mosquitoes after the storm. But in any case, yeah, it's quite a gorgeous view today. There, I've seen already people asking Resisted Jet here, for example, asking possibility of jellyfish today, perhaps. But we were talking about this before, like 2 minutes ago, when you were talking about, well, this mission, this launch is gonna happen right after sunrise, right? So no jellyfish.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, a little bit too late for a jellyfish right now. We're tracking about 26 minutes until sunrise at this location, and especially given that it's going southeast, it may, it doesn't really help with going into the um, even more light portions of the world. So yeah, definitely not really going to be any jellyfish. It'll be very visible for sure, but not a true jellyfish. There'll be some light in the atmosphere and some reflection, but nothing too spectacular this morning, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you talk about the trajectory. I think it's probably time to talk a little bit more about the mission in particular, because it's a rather interesting one. We're gonna talk first about the trajectory, because obviously that came out very naturally there, where it's like it's going southeast. It's not the traditional Starlink launches that we've covered, right? It's not a Starlink launch, but also like it's not like it's doing any of the trajectories that we've seen recently, where it's like northeast all the time, or even east if it's going to a GTO or something like that. This is going southeast, sort of passing northeast of the Bahamas. There you can see it's very similar to when we used to cover some of the southeast Starlink missions, that like Group 6 missions and things like that went southeast. So it's very similar in that sense. It seems like it's going to target a very similar trajectory there in that case. So yeah. And one of the interesting things for this mission is that now the second stage reentry location is also interesting, because if all goes well, that perhaps may also be the reentry path of the Starfall capsules. You may be wondering, what's a Starfall capsule? Like, what's this thing? Well, to briefly summarize this and not turn it into a really, really long Alex answer, I will say the only thing that we know is that it's just some kind of prototype or weird way of doing in a capsule on orbit manufacturing, transportation of cargo. There's this whole environmental assessment that was released a few weeks ago to be able to enable this mission. And SpaceX explained that there's this long list of different reasons why they're doing this Starfall capsule concept, sort of like a return capsule, basically. And you can put inside lots of different payloads, from manufacturing, from just cargo in general. There we can see sort of its shape, right? It's sort of like a hockey puck sort of thing. Way oversized. As you can see, it's like 3.1 meters in diameter. It's a way oversized hockey puck, and like 75 centimeters tall. So it's quite a big one. But yeah, that's basically some of the stuff that we know. Is just like this weird way of making their own capsule, I guess. Very minimalistic in a lot of senses. It doesn't have like its own propulsion system. The only thing that it's like just a few thrusters to be able to control itself during reentry, but that's it. That you can see sort of the concept of how it will look like with a deployed drogue parachute, and some of the recovery operations out there. They also, because we're gonna talk about recovery operations for the booster later, but there's also a recovery operation for this one as well. Jerry, I think you were talking. I think it was yesterday. You pointed out that Shannon is out there in the Pacific Ocean to be able to recover this.
Yeah, and if you were thinking that, oh well, didn't the CRS, the number escapes me, but that recent CRS that just undocked from
34.
the ISS, 34, wouldn't it be picking up that? And yes, it would, and it already did that, and it already brought it back to port, and that would have also been much closer to the coast of California than where Shannon is currently. So last I looked, it was about 300 or 500 nautical miles from Long Beach. So we'll see where it ends up. In about maybe 3 hours from now, I guess, is approximately when we could expect a reentry if all the timings and whatever line up with the reentry. Because again, we don't really know what's going on here, right? We have some NOTAMs for launch and recovery, but beyond that, it's going to re-enter somehow and do something when it splashes down over, hopefully on the west coast of California.
Yeah, and someone was asking, Lemon Space 2, is this a suborbital flight? And you were mentioning it's like 3-4 hours down the line in this mission. Needless to say, that is not a suborbital mission, right? Even the shortest orbit around the Earth is like an hour and a half or so. If it's more than that, it's because you're doing more than one revolution around the Earth. And unless it's a weird spacecraft that can sort of, keep itself in the atmosphere for a long, long time, or really weird concepts that a long time ago about such a thing. But this is not that. This is just a capsule, so it's not doing any of that stuff. So it's obviously going into orbit because it needs to go around the Earth at least a couple of times for the trajectory to go over western, sort of like west of California, right? So you need at least like a couple of orbits around the Earth. And so that means it's going to orbit and then it's going to deorbit. One of the things as well from this mission is that SpaceX has not released any kind of information about this other than that document. There's no timeline on the SpaceX website. Like, it ends just with stage 1 sort of milestones, right? Which likely means that we will not get any coverage from the second stage, which makes it even more interesting because it's a super duper secret project. It seems like I'd be surprised if we get any views. I really want to have views. There we can see that timeline, but there you can see like it says second stage engine starts and then fairing separation, and then it talks about the first stage milestones, but it doesn't talk about the second stage shutting down and when it does the relight for the orbit burn. Because obviously these capsules, as I was saying before, they don't have their own propulsion. They only have like coal gas thrusters, basically jets of nitrogen, sort of like the first stage of Falcon 9, to do a bit of attitude control during re-entry, but that's basically it. There's no weird engine like a Draco thruster or anything like that. They don't even have any of that sort of stuff, which is interesting. So it's gonna need a deorbit burn from that second stage after those 2 orbits around the Earth, and it's not there either. So it's clear that they're gonna be probably not covering that part of the flight, if I were to guess. I'd be surprised if we even see this thing. But good question, by the way, to Lemon Space 2. What an interesting name. And yeah, there's also some more interesting questions. I guess we can go in rants about this because we still have 45 minutes. Space enthusiast, HE and H2 blamer. It's quite a name. So what is the point of this payload? What could SpaceX possibly want to achieve with this new concept? And what exactly is this? Do we have any ideas or any reason why SpaceX is so secret with this? Well, I have a few ideas. I don't know, Jerry, if you've got a few on your own here, but I'm gonna guess secretive things might line up with military stuff. I don't know.
And I was going to let you rattle off something like that, but that's kind of what makes sense. Is the military wants to be able to load payloads onto some sort of small, relatively small-ish reentry vehicle to. I don't know if you test something on orbit or is it you talk about Starship point to point. This is like kind of the same thing, but like way less efficient, kind of. But it's really interesting, like you talked earlier about like on orbit manufacturing and all this kind of stuff that is definitely not like ready, I guess, for anything. There's no payloads that are like itching to be put into space on this, but like I'm sure that there's probably something that we have no idea about because it's classified that the government is probably looking into, but none of us really know any of that.
Yeah, this is one of those things as well where it's like all of the things that they list. For example, they talk about on-orbit manufacturing and things like that, or for example, they talk about replacing some of the ISS functions. For example, you are able to put payloads in this thing and then being able to recover them. So it's essentially like a way of giving them some microgravity time in space, or if it's like materials exposed to radiation and things like that. Like you have multiple different uses to this, but one of them is point-to-point cargo in that long list of different things that they sort of put in that document. And point-to-point cargo, they already have a contract with the U.S. I think it's the Space Force or the Air Force, because it's weird thing going on there. It initially started with the Air Force, it went to the Space Force, and then it went back to the Air Force way back when. And it's quite interesting because they still have that contract, and this may well be a way for them to be able to carry that out. There's renders out there. SpaceX recently went public. We don't do any investor stuff here, but we did see that they had like a render of this sort of weird satellite bus with 4 different circular openings. One of them even was like already filled out with like a black circular thing, and it really looked like one of these Starfall capsules basically. And so it seems like they're going to be using probably Starship in the future to deploy like 4 of these at a time, and then you're able to do all sorts of things and being able to deploy them and making the orbit whatever you want, which is a really interesting concept. And as you say, probably for the military purposes that we're thinking about, maybe a little bit more stealthy than a Starship coming back from orbit. That's for sure.
That's definitely maybe the question is, like it seems to obviously, want to re-enter and, has a drogue chute and then it splashes down in case, in case of this one, the ocean, can it land on land without, severe damage? So I guess really is just the payload inside is going to probably depend on what you have in it. Say if the re-entry vehicle gets damaged, that's probably something that can just be expendable, and as long as the stuff that's inside of it arrives okay, that's pretty much the objective there. That's an interesting test to see. Obviously they want to do it in water first, but if it ever comes back into like a desert or something, that would be an interesting different perspective to see if they ever try that soon.
Yeah, that's for sure. We are having a few more questions here, all of them obviously related to this. I said we don't know a lot of things. We do know some things, and then from what we know, we can start speculating and do sort of educated guesses. First, before going to more questions, I'm gonna hit a couple of super chats here that we have from Flippers, for example, asking, will Jerry and his drone follow Starfall Demo up and back down? Asking for a friend. Flippers, maybe not. Maybe let's not, because we know what happens.
We're running a little thin on the filming things with the drone luck here recently, so just be glad that I'm not out in Starbase for what seems like it's probably going to be a Ship 40 static fire. So let's chill out a little bit there.
And by for another regular here of the channel, asking, I'm so confused. What exactly is this thing supposed to be doing? You and me are confused as well. Well, I should say maybe not confused, but I'm definitely intrigued. Let's say, right? Again, lots of different things that they list in that sort of environmental assessment for this mission. There was somebody asking before. I think I lost the. Oh yeah, here Starman 7811 was saying, I believe we learned about this from FAA filings this year, but did we know anything about Starfall before then, or is this very recent? So about this, I tried to look through everything possible out there, And the earliest that I saw was a report from last year, like July of last year, where I think it was the LA Times or something like that, like a local from like newspaper from California, was already talking about SpaceX looking at on orbit manufacturing, and that the program was called Starfall. And I know about this because I look back on my own messages on Discord and I make a joke that they cannot resist making star things as programs. We recently found out that they're also working on a pipe for liquefied natural gas at Starbase, and they call it Star Pipe. So I'm still vindicated by that.
I mean, I think that's been not even like, I mean, it's what they actually called it, but it's more of like a running joke at this point. Like, I've just seen so many things on, X or Twitter. It was just like, they really called it Star Pipe. Like, you couldn't have any, like, that's what it had to be called.
Yeah, it's... Oh, man. Also, like, Starfall, it sort of sounds like Skyfall, like the James Bond movie and all that. And also like the proposal by NASA to do the drones to Mars, right? That's also the Skyfall mission. And then there's also the Moonfall with the drones on the moon. Why do all of these have to be something fall? Can it not be something else? Maybe chat can come up with better names. we need like a poll or something in chat for that.
Please find a
Jake
better
even
name for the LNG pipe.
That's true. At least the pipe needs a new one. But yeah, Jay King in the back channel saying, well, because they fall. Okay, but it's not technically falling. I mean, they're in orbit. That's falling, right? All the time. It's just free fall. Ask anybody that knows about physics.
I mean,
yeah.
what's the Buzz Lightyear quote? I'm not following. It's flying with, or not falling with style.
Yeah, flying with style. That's for sure. They're not falling. They're just flying with style. I guess. Yeah, the oversized hockey pucks. They're flying with style. They're not falling. See, somebody's saying Shooting Star. That's already taken by Sierra Space. Because they have the Dream Chaser space plane, but then there's like a module that they want to attach. And that module is called Shooting Star. Because it's meant to burn up. So they call it Shooting Star because why not? But yeah. In any case, let's hit some other milestones here, because as you can see, we are 36 minutes, a little bit over 36 minutes away, and we're coming up on a major milestone. So before we go into more questions, Jerry, could you care to sort of explain to us what's maybe happening in a few minutes here?
So in a few minutes here, hopefully we will have the start of prop load on the booster. So that will be SpaceX pulling go to start loading propellants onto the vehicle in order to, fuel the rocket and, lift off at their expected T0. So once they start, which hopefully they do here and just about right now, they will be locked into this time frame, and then they will have to, go at the end of this clock here, and then hopefully we'll have an on-time liftoff.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see some kind of frost in the next three minutes or so once that propellant load starts. Hopefully in 15 seconds from now. We'll get that confirmation, of course, from that frost. The clock stick it's still ticking down on the SpaceX website, so hopefully that means everything is still on track. They confirmed a while ago that it's apparently like connected to their own clock, which will explain why sometimes it does weird things, to be fair. But yeah. So let's take some more questions here. Yeah, there's for example, Genitude here. Will the Starfall capsule be recovered and reused on a Falcon 9 mission, on a future Falcon 9 mission, or no? I'm asking the ones who are running the live stream, not the chat. Yeah, that's a good one. It's okay if everybody wants to also answer in chat. You are also free to do that. But this one is interesting because we actually don't know what the plan is long term. Because as the name of the mission implies, this seems to be just a demonstration mission. So they're probably just a proof of concept. It's the very first time that they fly this thing. We don't even know if they're flying something else, because according to the documents, this should only be a few tons in mass, in weight, right? Which means this mission for this profile going into a low Earth orbit, it should be able to just, do a return to launch site landing. It shouldn't need a drone ship landing, which I guess we'll have to hit at some point because we have not touched on booster stuff. But to be fair, today the payload is the interesting thing, right? So we're more talking about the payload now. But yeah, it's a weird mission because it's got this hockey puck looking thing that it's maybe a few tons heavy, not really that super duper heavy like Starlink missions where they carry like 17 tons on board. So it should be able to have plenty of performance to be able to come back, the booster be able to come back and everything. So we don't even know if it's alone, or even if it's just one capsule, maybe it's multiple. So it's one of those things as well where there's just not a lot of information in that side of things, and it's a demo mission. So there's no guarantee that they're going to refly this, or even that they're going to be doing this multiple times with Falcon 9, right? We were talking about this like just a couple of minutes ago, that they seem to imply in the future they're going to be using this on Starship as well, using like some kind of satellite bus looking thing that can be deployed from the PES dispenser, basically, and carry like 4 of these at a time. Somebody else was asking if there's no gas thrusters, Lemon Space 2 sort of ties together with what I'm talking about. If there's no hot gas thrusters or anything like that, then how will it deorbit on Starship missions? And I will say that it is probably, with the SAT bus, I don't know about the compliment. I just said that it's a weird name. Sorry. But yeah, it's a weird thing with this sort of structure, because it's like you would think that the capsule will have its own propulsion system enough to be able to deorbit and things like that. But I guess with a satellite bus, it does allow you to be able to sort of be able to have multiple different kinds of profiles and missions. But we don't know too much about it, to be honest. That's the extent of what we know. And again, the things that we do know about, we can then sort of go from there and speculate. But one thing that we don't have to speculate is about propeller load, because I can see some frost on that booster. So that is confirmation that we have propeller load underway.
Yes, and that is a very good sign that SpaceX is, go for this window, and that will be hopefully no delays here, because if there is any sort of delay, it will prevent the launch from going at the scheduled time, and we'll try again possibly tomorrow. So hopefully everything goes smoothly and we get an on-time liftoff today.
Yeah, and we probably stalled a bunch with the rocket itself. So we can see there that frost. Thanks for that visual help, by the way, Jay. Jerry, what's this booster like? What's this launch profile for today? They're obviously recovering the booster, but where is it going to? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the interesting part. When I first saw this mission on the docket, it was an unknown, recovery type, and we kind of talked about what the payload could be. It's, maybe a couple of these little tiny reentry vehicles. Like, oh, for sure, it's going to be coming back for, an LZ landing because it's a really light payload. It's going to, as we know now, I guess, low Earth orbit and, southeast. But no, it's going downrange. It's going to land on the only East Coast drone ship that we have for Falcon 9, a shortfall of Gravitas, which will be accompanied with Bob out there. And this particular booster, which is 1078-29, is flying on its 29th mission. Just supported Crew 6, 03B mPOWER B, USSF 124, AST BlueBird 1 through 5, and Nusantara Lima, and then a bunch of Starlink missions as well. So yeah, it is certainly curious that the choice of, not choice, it's more of a logistical decision, right, to go downrange. And that kind of, I guess, maybe brings into question what exactly is on there, because, you were kind of talking about, these payloads themselves shouldn't really be that heavy, and they should be able to, launch it and come back here with plenty of headroom. But, maybe there's something else that we don't know about, and, kind of leads to the extra secrecy of the whole mission, maybe it's not the only payload on there, right? The Starfall is a good tester, but then there's also something else that they want to test up there as well that's probably not even publicly disclosed at all in the mission.
Yeah, they talk about this in the document. Like we're talking about, it's just a few tons. Gonna read here a little bit of the information that it's got in that document, which it says, Starfall is a cylindrical-shaped capsule, approximately 0.75 meters. There we can see that screenshot there of the document. 0.75 meters tall, with a diameter of 3.1 meters, weighing approximately 2,100 kilograms, and capable of carrying 1,000 kilograms of payload for a total weight of 3,100 kilograms. So, like, it's not really a huge capsule. It's not really that heavy. I mean, if Crew Dragon, which is way heavier, it's like 13 tons, right? They can do on RTLS. They should absolutely be able to do on RTLS here. So it's quite weird that they're doing a drone ship recovery for this mission, right? Somebody else was saying in chat. Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
I was going to say, what would be the, like, just from a volume perspective, the most amount of these things that they could like potentially stack on top of each other inside of this fairing? I imagine it's like not too many, but like quite a few, maybe.
Yeah, maybe like 4 or 5. I would say, perhaps. I'm trying to do math in my brain right now, trying to see how many of these they can fit. Probably a little bit more. I was probably on the short side of things.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that they would want to completely. Yeah, but they want to completely fill it up for a demo mission, right? You put 8 of them, in a demo mission, or just 1 or 2, and that's kind of the weird part of RTLS versus not, is I don't know.
Yeah. So somebody was mentioning like maybe they're doing a dog leg or something like that. The problem is the reentry. So there's we're showing this earlier at the start of the stream, right? The launch trajectory and sort of the reentry areas for the hazard zones for launch and for the booster recovery and the fairing recovery and everything, and then sort of how that lines up with the reentry corridor for the second stage, and also what we assume to be the capsule, right? If you line them up, it's basically like, it doesn't seem like there's any kind of dogleg, unless they do it in between, like they go to a different orbital inclination and then they come back, right? It seems like they do line up well, the way that the rocket goes out from Florida and goes into orbit, and then when it comes here for that splashdown off the coast of California, they seem to line up, which means that there's probably not a dogleg involved. Again, unless they do some kind of orbital inclination change in between, and then they come back to they do 2 orbital inclination changes or something like that. That's the only thing that I can think of that would, line up with that theory from chat. But I'm not sure that's what's going on here. So yeah.
Looking at that, I mean, like, obviously we can see on the screen here that the second stage has that mission extension kit on it, with that gray band around it, meaning that it's, expected to stay up in space for an extended amount of time, like potentially 1 to 3-ish hours, So I'm curious, is that, part of this typical mission profile, or is, you've seen a lot of these other government payloads, some of the recent ones on, say, Falcon Heavy, that have had to do some more, odd or different or heavy long-term burns up in space. They have this mission extension kit to allow the second stage to do multiple burns and stay up there for longer. So I'm curious if it's just the fact that they want to have these on orbit for a while, or there's, is there something else going on that they want to have multiple burns to deploy something else while they're up there as well?
Yeah, that's why we were talking about this whole thing of like, it's too lightweight. Maybe they will do something else. Maybe they will deploy something else. Like maybe there's like a stack of satellites underneath, or on top. We don't really even know where this capsule thing is, right, within that fairing. Somebody was asking if there was a fairing. There is. It's just basically blocked by the crew access tower there at Slick 40, but you can sort of see it there behind the truss structure. Thank you for that, Jay, with that illustration and the little boxes. But yeah, it's there. So the capsule or capsules, they're there. We just don't know if they are with company or not, and if there's any other payloads going on. There was at one point, because this is another interesting thing, maybe worth mentioning. There was at one point another mission carrying Global Star satellites, and the launch and entry hazard zones for that mission, the ones that we were shown before for this mission for Starfall, they were very similar to each other, both for the launch and sort of the booster recovery and fairing recovery. They were very similar, both for the launch and also the second stage reentry, which is really interesting because if there's a big if Global Star satellites are flying on this mission, it wouldn't be the first time that they carry sneaky, weird satellites along with those Global Star missions. Because there was a previous mission where they launched, I think it was one Global Star satellite on a Falcon 9, and there were all sorts of weird signs. For example, in that case, it was a drone ship landing, which was already weird because Global Star satellites are quite small. So that already, raised some alarms. And we had a whole conversation during that stream about the potential that maybe some sneaky satellites were going along with those Global Star, with that Global Star satellite at the time. And lo and behold, we were right. They were actually releasing some Starshield satellites on that mission, sort of like prototype satellites. So it wouldn't be the first time that they do some sneaky mission along with Global Stars. However, I will actually expect the other way around. Like, this will be branded a Global Star mission, and then they also deploy a Starfall capsule on the way. So I'm interested, in the fact that they do seem very similar. But at one point, maybe they decoupled those two missions. We have no idea. That's one of the things. But I thought it was important to mention, just in case. Who knows?
I mean, like, I don't know if it's like a coincidence that we had, I'm just looking through next space flight. It looks to have slipped a good bit. This is net July now. It used to be net June, but there's Global Star 2R mission 1, that was supposed to be flying, I think, before this SXM mission that's next up. But it's right around the corner for another Global Star timeline. So, like, they're, looking, you're integrating or whatever you have it, in the same kind of time frame. So it's a little odd, or maybe suspicious, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, some people are asking, like, what's Global Star? Global Star is just a company. They do like direct to phone services, especially if you have like Apple and like an iPhone basically. And if you've ever tried satellite services on that phone, they're connected through Global Star because that's usually how it's been doing, for at least for the last couple of years. It's basically just a satellite phone service. Right, and lately they've been trying to do this through regular iPhones and things like that, and they launch their own satellites in space, right? And that's the sort of thing. They did a launch. I'm looking here. Ironically, June 19th, 2022, so almost exactly 4 years ago, on a Falcon 9, and they carried 4 Starships alongside that single Global Star satellite. So that is quite interesting. And of course, we'll have to keep an eye on whether that's actually happening today or not. I will guess it's not happening, but we'll see. One thing that is happening, though, and you can see there on your screen, is a T-minus 20-minute vent. And that is a good sign that we are still on track for a liftoff, hopefully in just a little over 20 minutes from now. Jerry, you care to explain a little bit what's going on here for new folks?
Yeah, I mean, here, so the T-minus 20-minute vent is basically just preparing all of the lines on the TE for more propellant loading and chilling them down so they don't get shocked with the cold of the propellant as it starts to flow more into the vehicle as it progresses through the prop load. So it's just a way to condition and not break any of the GSC and any of the pipes and hoses that fuel the rocket here.
Yeah, it's always good to condition your ground support equipment before doing any cryogenic operations. But yeah, and so that's already one of the items there already crossed off on the timeline. As you can see, we are just a little bit over 3 minutes away from the start of liquid oxygen load on the second stage, and we'll see that when the vent sort of goes out and sort of dies off, then we'll have that confirmation. Let's see. There's a bunch of other questions as well. I'm gonna try and speed run through some of these. There's two in particular. Where is it? Yeah. Isabel here, for example, what do you think are the chances that this payload will outpace its counterpart from Varda Space? And then there's another one from October Sky, talking about, is this Starfall system similar to what Inversion Space Arc program? So that's a good pair of questions here that I just showed, because they talk about other companies trying to do this thing. And there's Varda Space out there. They have already flown, if I'm not mistaken, I've written about this on Twist lately. They have launched 6 missions. 5 of them succeeded. The fourth one, unfortunately, it did not go as well. But, 5 out of 6, that's a good rate for me, at the very least. Especially for an orbital mission that needs to survive re-entry. Some other systems, sorry, don't survive as many times through re-entry. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so you have Varda Space, for example. They're trying to do manufacturing of drugs and doing some materials testing as well for the Space Force, like hypersonics and things like that, because you're re-entering at hypersonic speed from orbit, and so you can also test a bunch of things with that as well. There's also like the potential for high G experiments and all that, especially because you can reach 5, maybe 6 Gs, up to 9 if you really want to, during a re-entry. And so it's a really interesting concept. It's a much smaller capsule, the one from Varda Space. It's maybe like, I don't know, a couple of I will say, how to explain this. Like, you can basically just put your arms around it. It's sort of like a human-sized capsule, basically. Whereas the one from this mission, the Starfall one, you can fit inside. You have to lie down, but you can fit inside, which is way different. Like the other one is sort of like you can hug it, right? The one from Varda. This one is way bigger, which will potentially be able to carry way more payload on board. And then there's Inversion Space with their ARC vehicle as well. I believe they have not flown yet, unlike Varda, but they're also planning some sort of thing of like, you carry your payload into orbit, you've got your, on-orbit manufacturing, materials testing, or what have you, whatever you kind of prefer to put in there, and then you have your capsule being recovered. You can also do point-to-point transport as well with that one. They're planning, like, there's this weird concept that they put out as well, where they sort of drop the space plane looking thing into a sort of remote island. I think it's what it tries to depict and show. But yeah, it's just another one in that game, right? I'm sure there's more companies out there trying to do this sort of thing. I'm probably gonna forget them. I know at least, for example, the exploration company in Europe has been also trying to look at this sort of thing. There's a few other companies as well in China that are trying to do this sort of thing. Of course, it's gonna get interesting in the future as they, get this sort of thing going and moving. There's a very good question from Iowa coast, West Coast. I've been in Iowa and there's no coast. So just saying, but I get the joke. What things will benefit from being manufactured in space? And I can tell you, there's probably a long list of people that might be wanting to sell you onto this thing. I have no idea. I'm not that kind of person. But there's obviously some benefits to certain materials, pharmaceuticals, for example. Like you've got certain protein crystals that grow in a much more pristine way in microgravity rather than in 1G here on Earth. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you could probably list a bunch of things. It's a question about whether there's actually a market there, because it costs a lot to be able to launch things into orbit. Now, fortunately, it's coming back down, the cost. But there's also the part about, you have to manufacture these Starfall capsules, or in the case of Varda, their Winnebago capsules, and then the Arc spaceplane thing from Inversion Space. So you've got a lot of these things as well that just by market force, they need to be reusable. They need to be things that you can basically cheaply manufacture, cheaply reuse, be able to recover them, and be able to fly them often, so that it's not very expensive, so that you can then close your business, basically. But in any case, we are about 13 minutes away. Let's take a couple more questions, and then we're going to get in the final stretch here of the countdown. Things are getting closer and closer here to liftoff. Now, there's also another question here from Resistojet, asking, so each of these Starfalls will have a heat shield, etc. for reentry. I feel this could also be testing for dropping multiple of them on other planets for resupply, exploration, and research. Sort of goes along with another question here that we had from Elias Greenhoff, asking your opinion. Do you think that Starfall could be used on missions to the moon and maybe to Mars? Not sure about the moon, because there's no atmosphere there. So it's not as easy to do any of this re-entry stuff like that. But definitely maybe on Mars. And that's a good, excuse me, that's sort of a good forward-looking thing, I guess, that in the future, very, very far future, you can maybe think about, I don't know, doing point-to-point transport from Earth to Mars just with the Starfall capsules. And that will be quite an interesting outcome of this program. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, yeah, in terms of the thermal protection system, the heat shield and everything, it seems like they might be reusing the one from that they use on Dragon, the Pika X, phenolic phenolic impregnated carbon ablator X. The X is for SpaceX, basically. But yeah, so it seems like they're just reusing the materials from Dragon rather than the Starship ones, or at least that's what it looks like from the materials that they gave us on the documentation. Now, it's really important to say here that there's not a lot of information, right? And this is why we're talking about. There's some things that we know, and we just have to go through with that. Basically, I'm sort of tripping here over my own words, but you get what I mean, right? That there's not all information, but we still try to at least guess as much as we can with what we can. And again, I was saying it might be like Dragon based on the size and the shape and everything. We don't know if it's gonna be like Starship, but in any case, I guess there's one of these things about Starship and its thermal protection system, and it is that you can basically have that as your own merch here from NSF, because we've got things like cases, for example, with a thermal protection system. We've got even these there's like a beach towel now as well with the TPS as well from Starship. There's all sorts of things with a TPS. I think at some point we had a sun shirt as well. I'm sure it's still being run in our shop. But yeah, it's funny. There's the sun shirt as well. We don't cannot guarantee that it's gonna protect you through an orbital reentry, right? Don't try that. But it's nice and fancy, and might protect you against the heat of the summer. But yeah. In any case, we are counting down here 9 minutes, 40 seconds to go for the launch of this Starfall demonstration mission. And there is still some few items to go through here on the timeline. Jerry, you mind picking those up and talking about what's next in the countdown?
Sure. So, I mean, once we get under 10 minutes here, it's a lot of just the finishing up the prop load on the first and the second stage, verifying that everything is go for launch. The vehicle goes internal, does its checks, and then it's all, computerized from there until the end, till the P0. So, but yeah, the propellant load should be wrapping up here pretty soon on the first and the second stage. We should get audio from that, maybe, if SpaceX has that on their stream here. So hopefully that will be here very shortly, and then we're just about 8 minutes away from liftoff.
Yeah, we should be getting close to the final few items here on the timeline. And just to give a little rundown of the few things that we do know, it's the Starfall demonstration. It's a sort of on-orbit manufacturing, point-to-point cargo sort of thing that they're doing at SpaceX. Today's launch is heading to the southeast out of the Cape. It is doing a drone ship landing, and that booster is going to be recovered on a chauffeur of Gravitas. It's flying for the 29th time on this mission. And the Starfall demonstration capsule, it is splashing down west of California, basically. But yeah, we've got already some little information, I guess, from SpaceX talking about today's mission includes a demo of a new vehicle that will enable affordable, routine access to the microgravity environment for scientific research and in-space manufacturing. And you listed a few more things, SpaceX, on your filings, like point-to-point cargo. But yeah, after demonstrating controlled flight, the spacecraft will splash down in the Pacific Ocean. So yeah, the reentry area that we were showing early on the stream, it's not just for the second stage, but it is also for the Starfall demonstration capsule here. This is like a very nice render, I guess, of that. Some people might be wondering as well if they're going to be able to see this from California. I will try, right? I wouldn't say no. Don't go out there. Like, I wouldn't tell you that. This is sort of the re-entry area, but it's way far out. It seems close because it's in a sort of wide view here. But you can see on the bottom left, that's Hawaii. That's the Hawaii Islands. So it's way out there. Believe it or not, I think it's like 600 nautical miles or something like that. But it's one of those things that if you have the time, if you want to, it's gonna be like what 4 a.m. on the West Coast. Well, 1 second, because this is the re-entering 3 hours from now. It's actually gonna be more like 7 a.m. But you get what I mean. It's gonna be late. If you want to go out and watch for this, good luck. Probably not going to be able to see it. I'm not going to hold you or anything like that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if you guys get anything. And hey, if you do, reach out to us on our socials. All the places. Facebook, X, TikTok, all the different places that you might think of. There's multiple of our socials out there as well. So Jerry, do I need to wave you off and sort of bid you goodbye until after the launch, I guess, because we're getting close here.
Yes, we are getting close here. I mean, I think it would be more useful if you could wave the bugs off. That would be helpful. Those, things are flying all over. But yeah, I'll get ready to do some final preps here, and then we'll get ready to track this thing, and then hopefully we'll see an interesting mission here and see how long they stay live for and see what kind of views we get from the second stage.
Yeah, they already said that they're not going to be showing that, unfortunately. But yeah,
it's interesting that like you'd think that for a new technology demo, there's like, they have all these renders and this, like, let's show it off, but no, apparently not. So I mean, it's fishy to say the least.
I'm wondering, like, wild thought here that maybe there's also a bit of eye dart going on here as well, because it's a re-entry vehicle, right? And so if you're able to create a re-entry vehicle that can survive re-entry, that can also mean that you can do other sorts of things, right? With that, you can imagine already what I'm thinking about. But yeah, hopefully we get at least a good stage 1 coverage. It looks like a gorgeous day there from this camera view on the crew access tower. And of course, we are getting close now to the stromback retract. You can see the rocket swaying as the clamps at the top of the stromback open. And there we go. That's one of the claws on the stromback. And it opens, and then the stromback retracts 1.8 degrees away from the rocket. They have already confirmed that engine chill is underway. RP1 load is complete on the first stage. So the next item here on the propellant load should be liquid oxygen load complete on the first stage, and then will be the same for the second stage. We can see there some of those items on the timeline as we still count down. Everything looking great. No weird callouts or anything like that. Everything's still continuing to proceed as planned. 3 minutes and 23 seconds from now should be getting that liftoff. So one of the other things as well from this mission is that it's gonna be this sort of multiple orbit sort of thing. And so you might have noticed that the second stage has this gray band, this gray paint on the kerosene tank. That is so that the kerosene is maintained at a good temperature for the really long coast phase. I know some people were asking, how is the Starfall capsule being deorbited? It's the second stage that is doing the deorbit. It is not a suborbital trajectory. Going into low Earth orbit first, and then after a couple of orbits, it's doing a deorbit burn to do that reentry west of California over the Pacific Ocean. So in order to maintain the kerosene for a long time without getting too cold, either freezing or getting too sluggish, like, you know, that's not great for the engine. So they have that gray paint to sort of absorb a little bit more infrared radiation, get a little bit more thermal management there to that kerosene tank. Liquid oxygen load has wrapped up on the first stage and should be getting onto the second stage really shortly. Once that happens, we'll have venting from the stromback. They'll be clearing out all of the lines, getting rid of all of the remaining propellant on the lines so that, you know, when this thing starts launching, it doesn't create any hazards on that stromback. It wouldn't be a great thing to have the launch and then suddenly, you know, blow up your own ground support equipment. You don't really want that sort of thing. But then we can see that vent, stage 2 liquid oxygen load has been confirmed as well as complete, and should be getting close to startup. That's a T-minus 1 minute mark, and that is when the onboard computers on Falcon 9 take over control of the countdown, and it sort of runs off from there on just Falcon 9 computers from that point onwards. It's also when the tanks start getting pressurized for flight. They need to be at a few bars of pressure to be able to sustain all of the loads that it goes through during launch, and also re-entry for the booster as well. We got confirmation that startup is underway now and should be getting a go for launch from the launch director very soon from now. Should be around the time now for that. And they are go for launch, 30 seconds here for liftoff. As always, we're going to try and keep an eye on the launch here as it happens. And, you know, it's going to take a while for that sound to reach our cameras. But you should be expecting it probably like 10, 12 seconds after that liftoff happens. And speaking of that, we are 10 seconds away here. Standing by to see that plume from Falcon 9 as the engines ignite, and then we got liftoff. That's liftoff, and we have a Falcon 9 with a Starfall demonstration mission going into a really weird mission here, folks. Let's stand by for the sound. It's still crackling. There you can see Falcon 9 heading downrange southeast from Florida and going into low Earth orbit. We could hear some of that crackling, even though it was like a minute and a half after launch. It's always amazing. But yeah, we're getting close now to 2 minutes into flight. As the Falcon 9 ascends into thinner and thinner air, we can see there that exhaust plume expanding. So far, so good. We should be under 30 seconds now to main engine cutoff and stage separation. Those 9 Merlin engines on the first stage will shut down. The 2 stages will separate. There are 4 pushers that will separate both stages. And then the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite to proceed into orbit. And there's MECO, main engine cutoff. Should be coming up on MVAC ignition. And that looks like MVAC ignition. Yep, we can now see both stages separate as 2 different dots. We can see some of the jets as well from the first stage igniting. Wow, look at that. Should be coming up on fairing separation just a few seconds from now as well. It's funny because they're not showing on boards of this, but they're showing a ground track of the second stage. Ah, there they go. Those are the fairing halves separating away from the Falcon 9 second stage on the right hand view here from the SpaceX coverage. Yay, the flyaway. But no views of the Starfall capsule. Yeah. Meanwhile, as you can see on the left-hand side, the booster here, which is B1078, flying on its 29th flight, already doing a 29th ascent. And now let's see if it does the 29th landing. It's still coasting. Still 127 kilometers in altitude. And still going up a little bit more. But yeah, really cool views here in this sort of post-sunrise launch. Look at those, like the angle of the sunlight hitting those clouds down underneath. It's so good. It's like such a cool view. So beautiful. Like, man, that's Earth down there. One of the sort of positives, I guess, from this mission having a very secretive second stage flight is that the first stage flight has more information. You can see on the bottom right the G-force and the engine diagram, that sort of graphic there of how many engines are ignited. Of course, right now there are none because it's in a coast phase. But when we get to the entry burn, hopefully in a couple of minutes, less than a couple of minutes now, we should see first the center engine igniting, and then 2 of the outer engines. It's always the same 3 engines that relight. The other engines do not have any relight capability. But it'll also give us the reading on the G-force during reentry burn, which is always interesting because a lot of people don't realize how much G-forces this thing goes through, how many of those they go. And also how much the atmosphere slows down the booster. Just getting ahead of the game here, but you gotta keep a look at that G-force while, after that reentry burn ends, and it's still just, slowing down from atmospheric drag. You should take a look at that G-force meter because it's gonna get interesting how much speed this thing bleeds off just using the atmosphere. I hear Jerry is back. Jerry, how was that launch?
We've seen plenty of these southeast trajectories here, but it's always interesting to see kind of like such a strange perspective when it's, flying directly away from you and it's pitching downrange with that, kind of just roll over, and you kind of just see the whole side of it, kind of face outwards. It was nice to see for a change after a plethora of these northeast trajectories here. So a welcome sight here. I think the next one would be a GTO mission going due east, which is even different again. So more more different trajectories is always fun. But yeah, looks like everything went smoothly with liftoff and stage separation. And here's entry burn here, as Alex was talking about earlier.
G-force is climbing up. That's so crazy.
Yeah,
5Gs.
Crazy to think that this is just so routine now that we're just gonna light this, and how fast is this thing going? Going 4,500 kilometers an hour. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Now G-force is picking up again as it sort of uses the atmosphere to slow down. 2Gs now. This is definitely not for humans to be strapped to this booster. Thankfully, humans don't ride on this. They ride on Dragon. Like, you remember the entry burn did like 5Gs? This is just the atmosphere and it's almost to 5Gs. So yeah, they're basically saving an entire entry burn by just using a lot of the atmosphere to slow down instead of doing a full propulsive landing all the way from space. That would be very, very wasteful, because otherwise, you'd be wasting a lot of propellant to be able to slow down. Just use the atmosphere. It's for free. Wow, look at that. The shapes around the grid fins. Wow. Yeah, the vapor as it transitions from supersonic down to subsonic. Yeah. And they confirm MVAC shutdown, so second stage is in orbit. Oh, bit of a video glitch.
Stage
there
one,
we go.
burn.
Landing burn.
And there's that call out for landing burn startup on the Falcon 9 first stage. And again, this is the final burn that this booster will execute leading up to landing.
Look at all that soot.
Yeah.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
There's a chauffeur of gravitas and another video glitch. And there we go. On board from the drone ship, and
Stage 1 landing
that's
confirmed.
almost bullseye there for B1078, now dash 30, because it's got its 29th landing and it's gonna get ready for our flight. That's mission control in Hawthorne, California. I see a few Merlin engines in the background. A Falcon 9 booster OctaWeb as well being integrated. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a welcome, but kind of unusual at this point sight to see a look into mission control. It's rare that we get this view anymore.
Yeah, it's been quite rare. Yeah, no views of the second stage, no views of the Starfall demonstration. They seem to maybe they give any updates afterwards. They want to test the maneuverability and things like that. They're just basically doing a demonstration of the Starfall capsule, and obviously it's gonna re-enter over the Pacific Ocean later, so it's gonna be many hours from now, and that's sort of the reason why they're not covering that. But it's like, you could at least also show the second stage. You're not showing that.
Yeah, it just seems so weird that like they go out of their way to do this hosted broadcast to just not show anything or really go into like too much detail. I haven't been listening to the broadcast you have, but like obviously there's no. I can imagine there's not been a ton of like, oh, we're doing exactly this or exactly that. It's a little bit of, I feel.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Again, we were talking about this, that these Starfall capsules are light enough that they can land the booster back on land, back at the Cape, basically, and still do this profile. So there could easily be something else going on in this mission, and we wouldn't know because they have not shown the second stage. So yeah.
Little bit of reverse psychology here. Hey, look at our Starfall. Look, Starfall, and then that's not what you're really supposed to be looking at here.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe there's nothing else, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is something else. Let's put it that way, right?
If I was to bet on it, I would definitely. I'm right now in the boat of there's something else on there, but who knows? We'll see. We'll wait for the orbital police to see what becomes of the tracking objects out of this mission here.
Yeah, Jonathan McDowell. If there's anything weird with this mission, we'll definitely cover this on This Week in Spaceflight, all Fridays in the evening Eastern time, maybe way too early morning for Europeans. Probably good time of the day for Australians and people in those sort of areas of the globe with those time zones. But yeah, all Fridays, I should promote this because I'm also a writer of This Week in Spaceflight. But yeah, I'm going to run through some couple of pieces of support here before we go to replays, because I'm sure we're going to show the replays, right, Jay? Just saying this in the back channel. Oh, the replays are ready. Okay, let me do the support first, and then we'll go to replays. How about that? Shasper Toddbot asking, do you think they will show the reentry of these Starfall capsules? I'm not sure that's going to be live, as we were talking about this before. I'm not also sure if we're going to see any post-splashdown, any kind of video of that reentry, like maybe from the capsule's point of view, sort of thing. But hey, you know, maybe. We'll see what they do. And then John Gotch is here, gifting a Red Team membership. That's another one person that can access to our membership program. And so let's take a look at the replays. Let's see. Oh, this is from the press side, from one of our robot cameras. Bye, bird. The bird flying off. Whee. And the other bird flew off, I guess. I find it funny because it's like, it's not like it's that instantaneous, the rumble, right? And the bird just flies off as soon as this thing starts lifting off. So I wonder if it just had a hunch that it was about to happen. Maybe they're used to all the launches. And they just know. Like a sixth sense sort of thing for birds to know when to fly off. Jake Keegan in the back channel saying the bird has the next space flight integration. Yeah, next space
Well, it makes
flight
sense
app,
when you
website.
know that the birds are government drones. It makes sense that they would be able to connect to next space flight to get updates on launch.
Duh. Yeah, I forgot. But yeah. You know, they talk about this, right? That animals they have like a sixth sense sort of thing. They feel when something is gonna happen. That's what it did. Or as you said, it's just a government prop sort of thing, and it knew already what was about to happen. This one should have audio, I think, from what we're being told. So let's see if we can hear some of that rumble. Not ramble, but rumble. Maybe not. Or maybe it's taking a long time. Ah, there it is.
definitely a long one today with the booster facing kind of just directly away, and all the noise and exhaust and everything pointed straight back at the towards the launch site from my perspective here. So definitely a different sound profile than a lot of the Northeast ones, and I feel a little bit less of a VAV squeal than some of the Northeast ones as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with it as well, or just how it is in the morning today.
I didn't hear it either. It also took a while, I said like 10, 12 seconds before the liftoff, because it's usually what it takes. I was even surprised that it took so long for the audio to reach the camera in this replay. I was sort of, saying like, I'm trying to give it time. It's just that it took a long while. I don't know really what happened there. I'm used to it happening maybe a little bit earlier, right? No, I'm not used to Starship.
Like just
Starship has only
time.
flown 12 times. And also, like, for Starship, it's almost instantaneous because we have, like, microphones really close to the rockets. I wouldn't say I'm used to it. I'm just like, normally it tends to be a little bit earlier for at least maybe it's just a hunch or like my own
like
brain.
It was right on time in my internal clock. Right. So we'll agree to disagree.
But yeah, look at that. We've got their we got some more support here from Byteford. Oh yeah, somebody already asked this, but never bad to ask this again. Do we have any hope to see the entry and splashdown of the Starfall? I would say, Byteford, it's really unlikely. As I was saying before, it's way out there. I won't tell you if you're in California and you want to go out there and see this at like 7 a.m. I think it is. It's gonna be very late or rather early. depends on which side of your sleep time it is. It's either very late or very early. Either way, you're probably gonna need coffee, to be fair. So if you want to go out there and look west or southwest, whatever in which part of California you are, might be either southwest or straight west. You do you boo, right? You do your thing, and so go out there and try to keep an eye on that. But it's way far downrange. It's like maybe like 600 nautical miles, I think it said the document, and it sort of lines up with the location of this reentry corridor as well. So yeah. But hey, again, if you try and you see it, that's a bonus. And tag us on social media and everything so that we can see it. But that's gonna be it. That was a really interesting mission. Not seeing a lot of the Starfall, unfortunately. We did get a little bit more information about what exactly they're trying to do today, which is, as the name implies, it's a demonstration. So they're trying to look at the characteristics of flight and being able to do that re-entry of the capsule, hopefully in a few hours from now, over the Pacific Ocean. But that's going to be it for today. Jerry, thanks for the coverage as usual.
Yeah, it's another great day out here at the Cape, and good to see another launch, and a lot of similar views with the Falcon 9 lifting off, and a lot of different talking points, but really nothing to point at visually that we could see. Obviously, everything was in the fairing, and no views and whatever, but certainly an interesting mission, and we'll kind of, I guess, wait to see what SpaceX says about it, here in the coming hours or days or however long that they expect this to last here.
Yeah, we'll see. And of course, there's going to be probably at some point some kind of Starfall mission also on Starship, as we were talking about. So we'll definitely cover that as well whenever it happens. And if it happens again on Falcon 9, we'll be here anyways. It seems like I can see the Stromback going up there on the pan at Space Launch Complex 40, of course. SpaceX doesn't stop. They still have more launches. Here from the Cape, they have the SXM-11 launch later this week on June 28th. And so we're going to be covering that as well. But, for today is the end of this live stream. You can see my name there, Alejandro Alcantarilla Romera. It's a very long name. Much shorter name is the one from our producer who pulled the levers and pushed all the buttons and everything. Hopefully nothing fell off or anything like that. Thanks, Jay Keegan, for that. And of course, thanks to all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation. 343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.